Well, since we're all here, I hate to start like 30 seconds early, but we're here. So welcome. This is Yoga for Resilience, empowering specifically the military community, but you don't have to have military experience if you're in here. The target is really for beginners, or maybe somebody new to yoga or new to this particular yoga community. The intention is really to demystify maybe the word yoga a little bit and like leave with some tangible things maybe you could take with you to utilize in your daily life. You don't have to come back to Cambio. You don't have to fall in love with yoga. You don't even have to remember any of the yoga words I'm going to say, which I'm only going to say a few. So if you look at our objectives for the day, the main objective is really for you to identify your community and resources, and then kind of create your own personal sadhana. It's over here under make today the day to learn something new, right? That could not be more just on point to what we've been doing today, learning from one another. This is going to be an interactive class. You're not going to be sitting the whole time. So I'm going to ask you to participate, add to, cultivate ideas, work together, share aloud, and things of that sort. So before I get through some of the script writing and expectations, you know me, my name is Schawann. But if you didn't know me, my name is Schawann. I often get called a military spouse because I have been for over 20 years now in the Air Force. Recently got called a seasoned spouse, and I took affront to that. I was like, I'd rather be called spicy, but that's okay. I'll take it. And it's really just seasoned.
Is that like trying to say you're old?
Yes, it means you've been through a lot of cycles of the seasons and changes over time. You've learned all the things, and I've done a lot of mentoring. I've been a key spouse mentor, a command spouse mentor, a command lead spouse. So I've worked with every military type, either as a spouse or in some of my various jobs, as an educator, a career counselor, for military members across the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, and now the Space Force, which I also work for. So just, ask me all the military questions and I'll tell you all the secrets.
So are you in the military?
I am a Space Force guardian. I am a contractor. I'm not active duty. My husband is active duty. Okay. I've never been active duty, but one fun fact is, I met my husband in junior ROTC. We both wore a little blue uniforms in high school. We met at that program doing drill team and color guard, and then we went on a trip to Charleston in a C-130. They took high school kids up in the air, dropped in Pope Airfield just for a minute. They did some up and down flights to make us sick. We landed in Charleston. We did all the Charleston tours, and that's when I fell in love with my husband. And I told him as much, and it took him about 4 to 6 more months. But that was 25 years ago, by the way. So if you want to know my age. The name I go by is Mom. My cats call me that, They for sure can say that. Don't fact check me on that. And really what this class is about, it's about getting to know one another, build community, and something to take away from today that hopefully can really provide you a sense of resilience. We will have a 5-minute kind of knowledge check or maybe break about halfway through. If info comes up that you decide not to share, that's fine. But if you decide to share it, just know this is a safe space. And I think that we can all agree to that. So if you have to look at each other and be like, what stays in yoga? What says in yoga stays in yoga. Okay, we all agree. And we're going to build on the idea of community. Does anybody know what the yoga word for community is? Yes, ma'am.
Sangha.
Sangha. And what's your name?
Oh, I'm Kathy.
Kathy, it's so nice to meet you. Sangha. Awesome. Kathy, can you add that to our yoga words board?
Sure.
Awesome. So we're going to simplify some things. Sangha is community. I don't want to make it complicated for you. And then we want to think about community as resilience. And here's spoiler alert. Resilience is about having a community internally and externally. That is the goal of today.
Are these gonna bleed through the paper?
No. Yeah, I tested it. So what I would like for you to do now that you know a little bit about me is I would like for you to, you can use the paper there. We're gonna go through those notes. I will tell you when we're looking at those notes. You can take some sticky notes. We're gonna use those as well today too. And I want you to just find a comfortable seated position and really begin to think about, what is resilience? First of all, it's hard to spell. Google catches me every time, right? It's hard, it's a little wonky. What is it? And when you start to kind of put some words around it in your own words in your mind, think about a time you were resilient. You practice resilience. For example, hi, I'm Schawann. I practice resilience all the time, but specifically in 2000, pick a date, 12, I had neck surgery. I had to finish my school year early in May. Got a disectomy, had to learn how to walk, use my head, bend down, brush my hair, do all the things over the summer to get back to school on August the 12th. So I had 2.5 months. Oh, by the way, May 1st, we moved homes. May 9th, I had my neck surgery. So we was also settling to a new home. And then we also got orders to our next location that summer for the following summer. So I was trying to live in the present, put my body back together while thinking in the future, while planning a school year. And I'm here today. And it was 100 degrees for 100 days in San Antonio. So I'm just giving you a cascade of just some of the adversity that came against me. Now take that example, define resilience. Take about 30 to 60 seconds. I'm going to provide you some quiet to think of an example of when you were resilient.
Are you writing this down or thinking?
Thinking. Now, once you have your story in mind, I want you to do 2 things. 1, stand up, introduce yourself to someone, and tell your resilience story if you're comfortable with it. 2, take your sticky notes and jot down your definition of resilience. And you can take your sticky notes and put it on the mirror under resilience is. And if you have multiple definitions, put all the sticky notes. So just take about 3 minutes, jot down the definition of sticky note on your sticky note, and introduce yourself to somebody. And I could be one of those people since there's only 4 of us in here. It's all good. I also have tape over here on the pillows, on our bolsters. All right, take a moment to introduce yourself, your name, and your story of resilience.
Should we just, the three of us do it? Since
Sure.
only three of us? Who wants to?
I'll go first.
Okay.
My name is Tim.
Hi, Tim. Hi, Tim.
Hi, Tim.
Sounds like a AA meeting. My story started a long time ago, back actually when I finished medical school, was in residency and internship. It was rather trying. For some weeks, I would be in the hospital for 136 hours. And an 80-hour week was actually an easy week. So doing that kind of schedule for a year, you're constantly tired, constantly fatigued. Your brain's constantly fogged with all the expectations that you have to read this and do that and do all everything else. And then if you make a mistake, you kill somebody. So, I mean, it's a rather stressful period of time. So if I can survive that, I can survive most anything.
Wow, thanks for sharing. I didn't know that about your past. That's incredible.
They've, since then, they've eased off on the residency requirements. I think they limited to 80-hour week now.
Right,
so.
they understand limits of human body.
Right. Brain. how
Yes.
terrible it is.
Yes.
I mean, I go home and, after work, and this was before the best invention in the world was the microwave. Because Marie would make pork chops, then keep them warm in the oven. You know what happens to a pork chop that's kept in the oven from
Hockey
like
puck.
5, yeah, really, it made good shoe leather, but not a good meal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aw.
But with the microwave, hey, you zap it, oh, this is actually good now, so.
Mhm. Well, I'm Laura. I'll say mine. I was one that came to mind. I was thinking of my mom recently passed away. That's another story we'll back to maybe later. But after college, I was trying to figure out what I was doing with my life and was kind of traveling around, working different places, and then decided a friend of mine emailed this just email because there were no cell phones really back then. That's how seasoned.
You had email back
I know, barely. And he's like, I'm in Spain, come, it's so much fun, you love it, get some, see if you like it. He's like, I'm working, I'm gonna get you a job, blah, blah, blah. So I just was like, okay, and I went for a month and traveled Spain by myself.
Wow.
And
That's
this
cool.
was with just like a Lonely Planet book and,
Yeah. Old
a
school.
little Euro Rail back in the day. And then was like, I loved it, so I came home, saved up some more money, and then went back and just like had a life in Spain for a while and had to navigate all those things that
Wow.
happen with, a different language.
Mhm.
And it was hard. There were definitely days that were hard, that were lonely, but it made me have to make friends and get out there and just figure out life in another country. And it's such a great experience.
Wow. Yeah.
How long are you in Spain?
About a year altogether.
That
I
sounds
came back for a friend's wedding, so.
Resilience is like understanding and learning new cultures, creating a life in a different place. That's real stuff.
Yeah, being able to.
Before the internet.
I had a moment, I was in Granada at one point, and just because I'd get to a city and just kind of wander around, and there'd be places they in the books be like, go to these hotels, because
Yeah.
there was no like making reservations
Yeah.
really, like it just didn't happen. And I remember one guy, this older guy was like, are you lost, like in Spanish, and I'm all like, yes, because I would like had my map and was trying to figure out where I was, and it was just kind of like that was just how it went. You just let yourself get lost.
Yeah. Oh,
And
I love that
relied on the
feeling.
kindness of people to help you and to get over the fear of like the language barrier and all that kind of stuff was, so fun. Scary and fun, in hindsight.
Did you have Spanish in high school?
Yeah,
Any
I mean,
background?
that's what I studied, but
Okay.
it was still,
It's
it was,
not
it
the
was
same.
very different in
Yeah.
Spain than Mexico.
Yeah.
and
But
Yes.
you could
Denver.
read the signs
Yeah, I
And
could
the-
read the
and
signs.
the menu.
Yeah, I could do that stuff, but it was all still very different there than anywhere else. And
Mhm.
especially like the tense in which they speak is completely different than what you're taught, which is annoying because in school they're like, oh, don't worry about learning that conjugation. And it's
Yeah.
like, that's all that they speak.
Yeah.
So that was funny.
yeah. Spanish in America is helpful if you go to Mexico.
I guess that's me. I'm Kathy. Hey, I'm an Army veteran. And I also met my husband 30-some years ago now, in the army. Uh, resilience. Ugh. I don't know what to say. I grew up really poor in like the slums and didn't have any brothers or a dad, and no, I didn't want to get stuck there, so joined the military, and then I was in this unit with a couple thousand males and no women at all. I was one of the first female Apache crew chiefs, and we weren't wanted at the time at all. This was the early 90s when it was like okay to let that show.
Wow.
But I figured out my path. I figured out how to work in that environment. And then I got really sick and I had a bunch of surgeries and lost a lot of organs and intestines. And at that point, like I wasn't expected to live. And if I did, I probably wouldn't be able to eat. And I can eat now, not a lot of things, but I can eat enough to be a normal physical functioning person. And I've just really taught myself a lot about how to live in this body that I have, like to an extent that I think my doctors would be stunned if they saw me now. So yeah, I mean, and plus being a military wife, I mean, it's just all about resiliency and just moving from place to place and finding a new community and new doctors and new schools for the kids and new friends and all the deployments and stuff. Yeah, just all the things.
That's amazing. Considering the continuity of care is really hard when you're in the military, you move.
Oh yeah, there was none.
Explaining, oh, this is my problem to a
Oh,
new
yes.
doctor, it's a great feeling. Here's my business to like 20 people now know. Wow, those are amazing stories. I learned something new about all three of you. That's cool. That's cool. Thank you guys for sharing. Wow. So we're gonna come back to resilience is in just a moment. What I'd like to ask you, just a quick little discussion is, other than me, Air Force spouse, Army veteran and spouse, Air Force veteran, what are your stereotypes of the military community that come to mind? What are we? What do we do? What do we act like? Safe place here.
I don't know, that depends upon what service you're in. There's a distinct difference, I think, between the Army and the Marines and the Navy and
Yes.
the Air Force for sure. I imagine the Space Force is so new that it's still basically an Air Force culture for the most part.
Surprisingly, it's not. They have become the little brother, and also redheaded stepchild of the Air Force in as much as they don't know who they are. Like you don't have an identity, and when you do have an identity, you're basically Steve Carell in the Space Force show from Netflix. People are making fun of you. And so just trying to explain we have a purpose and all of that. The Guardians are struggling with that. They're figuring it out. But they have a song now and mission, vision, values, all of those things are getting cultivated. I'm like,
Actually, one of the guys that camped with the Burning Man was in the Space Force.
cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Cybersecurity in the Space Force.
Yeah, I've met a bunch that come through CCL, so that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, but I get like 3 stars that come through,
Right.
so my experience with them is much different than my experience of like Colorado Springs
Right.
military.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I work with GOs and executives, and it's different than like my peers,
Mhm.
right? Any other stereotypes? Definitely the different services have their different ones.
Yeah, I could speak to stereotypes among services, but as someone who's been so enmeshed in the military culture for so long, I don't have enough perspective to know what a civilian would think about us, you know,
right.
I have no idea.
Right.
I'd love to hear. I don't know. I know the Army makes fun of it. I mean, you know, all the Army makes fun
Well,
of
the
the Air
blockheads
Force.
of the Marine.
Yeah.
Yes.
I will say the Navy gets stationed in the best places, that's my
Because
observation.
they are on the coast and stuff. Yeah.
The
Mhm.
Army gets the worst unless it's in Europe.
So
So true.
civilians, think about what they see in media. How are we, the spouses and the active duty members, portrayed in the media?
Oh, okay, so the active duty are super hardcore and buff and very sacrificial.
Mm.
And the spouses are very martyr-like and patriotic and also sacrificial. And very virtuous.
Virtuous. I am a super virtuous.
So I'm a lay person, I know a lot of military people,
Mhm.
but I would say what I often see is very conservative values amongst the enlisted. Thinking officers, there's a more liberal, free-thinking mindset.
So,
Open, yeah.
But like that's been the huge thing that I've noticed, the difference, it seems like, in education. Just like the barrier to education, so then you see what that looks like.
Mhm.
Just in family members, I know that have done it,
Right.
and then it's like the spouses is always like a weird, they're trying to find. Club of like,
We have a-
others are like, if you don't act a certain way, then it's hard to get in, because the women need to be like
Yes.
a certain, and it's usually the women, but
Yes.
need to act a certain way, and they're just like, I'm not this subservient little housewife.
Right.
And that is a clash for
Mm-hmm.
some women going into different communities, not feeling very welcome. But then at the same time, when they do work, then it's really good resources that network together, so.
Absolutely. But moving to Japan in 2019, the spouses club had just changed from Kadena officers' wives to spouses.
Ooh.
Just a W and a S, a big difference in that they're welcoming in the male spouses and partners of all varieties, and that was still new. And I was one of only 2 command spouses of 9 in our group that had a job. And so when I didn't show up, it was just like, oh, I missed something major, right?
Right.
It was very isolating at times if I didn't show up and I wasn't included in things. And so that absolutely happens because there is these microcosms of community that you create around events and happenings and stories and shared time. And you can have exclusion there. And the whole conservative liberal thing and based on the rank and et cetera, there's no monolith there, but there are these stereotypes are there for a reason. Some of it is true in certain communities, but the military is in every part of the world, except for like barely like 27-ish countries. We have a presence in one way or another. And so the diversity of thinking, like you said, you went to a country and you have to figure it out, right? That's what we do. Not all of us get that opportunity, but that forces resilience really on us, even if we don't ask for it. So with those stereotypes in mind and the idea of community, and I'll get more into this, I switched a few things around today, but I want to look at resilience defined in your handout, and you can use your handout to take notes, or if you have a journal, you can take notes. But I want to go to part B, and I'm going to come back up to A. The National Library of Medicine, doing a little bit of research, and there's a few different sources here, but they polled military veterans, and about 80% of them and 90% of military spouses said they were more resilient after a deployment. Deployments can range from 4 months to a year. Sometimes they can be longer. The Army has longer ones for sure.
Army's been
Yeah, the longest one my husband's been on was a year, but that was considered a remote deployment. And I got to see him 6 months in because he had some basic, like what they call in the Navy, shore leave, similar. But they are basically saying, hey, I was without my spouse. I was managing these kids, this household. We didn't get to communicate always. My first deployment with my husband, we had this miraculous thing called Skype, and it was brand new, and we were figuring it out, and it always dropped signal, but we were able to see each other, which was just a really big deal in the early 2000s. We were really fortunate to come into the military in the age of technology, but unfortunate because it was in the war on terror. We came in right after 2001 to do that. We joined in 2004 specifically. And another interesting fact that I found is that in the post-pandemic survey, it was in 2023 into 22, 83% of people said, I'm resilient. Basically, they clicked that button. Just hypothetically, I'm resilient. Then they took an assessment and only 57% were actually resilient. So what we think of, I'm resilient, maybe not true always. Maybe our bucket is not as full as we really think. And that's something to consider. There's a venture capitalist, an author's name is Ray Dalio. He has a very interesting equation, and I didn't want to spend too much time on this, but I just thought it was really interesting to consider how to build resilience. You have your pain or your obstacle, learning a new culture, okay, creating a new career and enduring long hours, having your body physically fail you, or going up against
Enjoying off of it.
going against gender barriers, in a community, and having your body failing you. That's pain, right? That's obstacles. That's a problem. The reason we're here in this room together is because we're reflectors. We have reflected and learned, and we've made progress to keep going. So you guys have heard of Friedrich Nietzsche, the German philosopher.
Yeah.
People quote Nietzsche all the time. He says that which does not kill us makes us stronger. How many times have you heard this in your life?
Yeah.
I swear, even my Baptist preachers used to use this, like throw it in there with little verses. It's so bizarre to me. And Oprah Winfrey said, turn your wounds into wisdom.
Yeah.
Both of these are nice, but the how is not there, and the how is reflection. That is the key point. Pain is not progress. Reflection on the pain, the problem, the obstacle is the progress. How long did it take me to reflect on my neck surgery? I'm still reflecting on it. I wake up some days and can't turn my head. I am constantly reflecting on it. Is my neck okay? Is my spine okay? Is my hips okay? My body is now a reflection point every day. I'm checking in with it, right? And I imagine, Kathy, you feel the same way. You have to be in tune with your body to stay in this world, and thrive the way you want to. So this is a really important part about resilience that I want to talk about, is the reflection piece. Some of the definitions of resilience is a skill that can be learned as part of a toolbox, the ability to bounce back, not just to be strong, but a combination of toughness and flexibility. Let me see what you guys wrote as well before we keep going. The ability to persevere in the face of adversity. It doesn't need to be perfect. Oh, I love that. Perfect is just an overused word. When I first started teaching yoga, I got in so much trouble because all the class would just be like the beautiful like warrior two, and I'd be like, that looks perfect, and I just would use it. It was just like my catchword, and I had to beat it out of myself. There's no perfection, so being able to adopt, grow whenever you're spent.
Which you're saying.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know what I wrote. I didn't remember what I wrote either.
This word.
Oh, wherever you're sent. The ability to adapt and
wherever
grow
you're
wherever
sent.
you're sent.
Yeah. So like changing, being able to change to wherever you go. Absolutely. Being able to bounce back after baseline plans were upset. Oh man, how many times my plans were upset today already 3 times at least. So, the ability to bounce back from adversity. There's this bounce back. Bounce back is great. Bounce back, you get up, but oh, a minute, my hip is dragging. So I'm really not going very far until I reflect on, what did I do to my hip? Do I need to go get help for my hip, right? Some other things in this definition of resilience at the bottom of the handout here is when your resilience tank is low or close to empty, how do we react? What is our natural reaction?
To quit.
Quit,
Give up.
Anger.
give up, anger. I call it kicking in, kicks in. Kicking in. So I usually go to anger, but if it's really like, if it's kaput, I just go on the couch and take a nap, right? That's when it's empty. If it's low, anger, empty, nap. Those are my 2 reactions. How can we have a full resiliency tank? How many of you think that you see obstacles as opportunities to learn? Who would you say that you're kind of like, oh, that's
They usually become that way, but do I see them that way at first? Probably not. No.
not initially,
No.
okay?
And you seek that? No.
Right. So you don't seek problems, right?
Mm-mm.
Right? You don't seek problem, but when a problem comes up against you, you might kick a little bit. But then you want to start using some of these 7 C's of community, and curiosity is the real one that makes that reflection come into focus. Why did I have this problem? Oh, because I wasn't watching where I was going and I stubbed my toe. I was looking forward and not down, and I didn't have an idea of my surroundings. So curiosity, be more mindful of your steps. Be mindful. Here's some synonyms for resilience that I've been called. The most common one is stubborn. This is at the bottom. Underline any of these that maybe you've been called. I've been called strong. I've been called strong more than every Iron Man that has ever won an Ironman competition. And I've never done an Ironman ever. I don't plan to, don't want to. People are just like, Schawann, I don't know how to do it. You're so strong. I don't know how you do it. That's basically saying, I don't want your life. Good job. Yeah, good job keeping it together, because I don't want to do that. You are stronger than me. And that's a comparison. So we don't want to compare our strengths compared to the next person, or our resilience. But that persistence, and then Laura, perseverance. And I was asked in an interview once, the teacher said, hey, how would your mother describe you? And I was like, stubborn. And she goes, so what? She was an English teacher too, one of those pompous, like, I'm about to retire kind of English teachers. She goes, so what you're saying is you're tenacious. I was like, yes, ma'am, I'm tenacious. I went home, cracked a beer, was trying to calm my nerves. I was like, I think I got that job. They called me back, like, as I was taking my first sip, and I put it down, and they were like, can you come back in? We will have a few more questions for you. And then I came in, I had 3 more questions, and they say, you got the job. This all happened in like a matter of 3 hours. And I guess it's because I was honest. I said stubborn, but stubbornness is a sign of resilience. So what are some ways we can build resilience? Start on the second page, part C. Try something differently, right? I was walking, I stubbed my toe. I wasn't watching where I was going. I wasn't mindful of the crack in the concrete. So what am I going to do differently? I'm going to be mindful of the concrete. And all future concrete, honestly, if you break a toe, if anybody's ever broken a toe or something,
Oh, yeah.
it changes how you think about all surfaces on this planet. If you tripped over a root whenever I'm hiking, that's happened a few times, or if I've slid on some scree quite a bit here. And it changes the way I use my body, and I don't rush up trails and rush down trails. I'm mindful of my steps, because everywhere I step, my body goes, and there's so many parts and pieces to my body that something's going to fall apart. My neck's going to go out, my shoulder might go out, who knows, my knee. So being mindful, try something different, not just doing the same thing over and over again, like a bouncing ball. So I like the bounce back idea, but it's not like a bouncing ball. It's not. Taking breaks. This is the reflection part. Allow yourself to feel the emotion. I'm angry. I'm mad. I'm going to kick something. Take a step back from that. Sometimes naps are how we refuel.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes getting the anger out and maybe crying is how we refuel. Sometimes talking to a person you trust and saying all the bad words is how we refuel. That's how you refuel and become more resilient. Answers and solutions, like Kathy said, they don't come immediately. The problem comes and your reaction comes. So another thing to consider is shame. Who has heard of shame being a barrier to resilience? Okay. Where'd you hear that, Kathy?
Friday morning, Austin's yoga class, actually. He was
Wow.
just talking about that.
That's wonderful. I know that I think this word shame and vulnerability came into my vernacular and my understanding over the last decade or so, after reading several Brene Brown books. She really just forced it into, I think, the mainstream culture to destigmatize the idea of shame and create vulnerability as a strength. Mm-hmm. And I think vulnerability and connection is really an antidote to shame, and it breaks down that barrier to resilience and really building it up. The creating awareness, part 3, regulating your emotions and creating awareness. During that trying time with my neck surgery, I was a little hopeless. My husband had to coax me off the couch quite a bit. When I couldn't wash my own hair, that was really frustrating. When you don't feel like good in your body. And I think the big barrier that got me through that was his compassion. His compassion helped me get off the couch. Dry shampoo is a thing. Okay. If this happened in the 80s, that wouldn't happen. I would just have some really stinky hair for days. So we have these solutions to problems, but it didn't come immediately. The first thing that came was, I am broken. I'm never going to get better. So trying to take the emotion, let it wash over you, let it have its day, and then try to find its opposite. And that is a sign of resilience. Flexibility in play, not just flexibility in your body, but flexibility in like a problem comes up and you didn't see it coming, or somebody took time away from you thought you had, and just rolling with it. Saying, okay, I lost those 10 minutes, but what can I do with these other 5? I mean, we're all humans in this life, and that happens almost every day. Putting things into your control, can't control column. This is huge. This is huge on how you use your time and having space for flexibility and play. And lastly, and I think you 3 are pretty good at this, laughing and planning fun. That people make fun of me because I plan fun, but I'm serious by nature. Told you guys I came out like a 30-year-old. I'm for sure. My mama told me I just came out serious, and so I have to plan fun. I have to remind myself that this is a really amazing life, and it absolutely makes me laugh at problems when they come up now, instead of being like the problem solver, serious Schawann with all the solutions. Don't superhero cape into things. My lifestyle as a military spouse forces me to be that solution problem solver. But play has changed my outlook, and yoga has helped with that. It's been the buoy for sure. So one thing I want to do before we move on is just outline the 7 C's. It's on the front part of your notes there. So these are some questions that you can journal. Specifically, I wanted to ask you about what's your community look like. We're going to go through a few of these questions, talk about the 7 C's, and I'll give you a few minutes just to journal. So the question is, what are the 7 C's? Well, in community, you have to be curious. You got to be curious about people. Hey, who are you? What do you do? What do you know? Having the compassion just to like really care about people when you do meet them, and the desire to connect with them, to create a connection, to communicate, hey, I think we'd be good friends. You want to go have a coffee? That creates the community. That's the 7th C. And then when you have that, you'll start seeing creativity popping up. Oh man, when I moved here, I joined a women's hiking group, and it was amazing. I didn't know a single one of those ladies, but they were like, it's a ladies only hiking group, super safe. These people lived here for thousands of years. They know these trails. I just showed up, and it was amazing. And now I have the creativity to lead my own hikes after living here for a little over a year. So creativity will come out, and you'll start realizing, oh, I want to commit to these people. These are my people. That we share a common bond. So I have a hiking group. I have a yoga group. I have my military spouse friends, my neighbors. I have all these different commitments to people that really fuels me and builds up my resilience. And it's from a variety of sources, because I've had times when I'm isolated in a different location, and my source is my husband, and we're just siphoning off each other, and that's not healthy either. So looking outside of your community, being curious, compassionate, to build the connections, communicate what you want to do. I want to have some coffee. You like coffee? I like coffee. You like cats and coffee? We're besties. Okay. Commitment to that person or persons or group, and then the creativity will flow. Ideas like this workshop came to me in a flood of emotions and ideas, and I wrote everything down, and everything I wrote down that day, like 3 months ago when I had this conversation with Amber in class, totally different than today. And that's okay. So, questions I want you to consider. and then I'll give you about 3 minutes to jot down some notes. What does community look like to you? Who is in your current community? How do you care for them? Why did you connect with them? How are resources for your community communicated? Are you curious about getting connected to a new community? And have you committed your time, resources, and energy to a community? Some of these are a little bit repetitious. You don't have to answer them all. I'm going to give you 3 minutes to just journal a little bit for your own self-reflection. Are there any questions? Don't forget to take some water breaks. The sun's coming into this room. Might get dehydrated and not know it. 15 more seconds. Okay. Would anybody like to share one of their responses? Maybe how does your community communicate? I know Cambio, the communication is just like on point, like exceeds like every expectation I've ever seen of a yoga studio. Between the flyers, the website, and the app, I have never felt more connected and conveniently accessible to, I need yoga right now in my hands. Where's the next class? Click go. When's the workshop? Topics, okay. Planning ahead, all of it is just so well communicated. For Cambio, that's my perspective.
But don't forget the announcements in class too.
Right, yeah. So even when you're in class, you're just like highlighting those things. So they're continually saying, hey, we want you here. Come back to us. We've got things for you. It's cool. Any other responses you'd like to share?
The words right out of my mouth.
Well, I'd say I have for community results, like I wrote many pockets. Cause I have,
Oh, I like that.
so I have Cambio, I have CCL, my other job, or my neighborhood, I have
Mhm.
everybody, my family, and then my girlfriends, and so, and I'm sure, so that's like, yeah, just a variety of different ways where I have community.
I love that. That's how my lifestyle is too. And that's healthy because then, I've known women specifically that have best friend. It's like that's their person, and they have interpersonal drama. And I'm a no drama mama. And it's great to have a best friend, but it's just like, if you have your partner, there can't be your everything. You've got to spread out your love and your sense of belonging to other places. And I think that helps build your resilience because you can get it from different places. You don't who gets gas at the same gas station every week?
I mean, I tried.
I mean, I'd like to go to Kroger and get that discount, or Costco and get the discount. I'd love to do that, but it's not always on my route. So if I run out of gas, I'm going to a different gas station, right? I just thought of that. It's totally off the fly. So don't quote me on that. So I'd like to now ask the question. This is the big question. This is how, what are you going to take home? All right, you've identified your community, thought about how it's communicated with you, but when we talk about yoga, like specifically physical, tangible yoga, it provides a community, but within that community, we do some things. Some of those things are kind of weird if you look at it from the outside. So I'm going to try to make it less woo and more, hey, this might be for me. We're going to focus on the 3 M's. How can yoga help build resilience? Mudras, movement, and meditation. That's it. These 3 things. I'm not going to add anything complicated. But the only 2 words, or a few words that I do want to talk about, is the word sadhana. Does anyone know what sadhana means?
Never heard of it.
Practice.
Practice, okay? So we're constantly practicing our nutrition, right? We decide what we put in our body. We practice our sleeping patterns, right? We practice yoga. Yoga is a big, broad term. There's a bit different parts and pieces of yoga. So in a sadhana practice, one of the definitions that I love of sadhana is a discipline, a repeated discipline to obtain a specific goal. And that's too wordy, but Tim, I like your word practice. Would you mind adding that to our yoga words board? You could pick any marker color you'd like.
I would throw in spirit.
Any color I like?
Spiritual practice?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So spiritual practice. Combination of Laura and your definition. So there can be spiritual elements that come out of creating a sadhana. So the question is, what do you want to practice? How can yoga be practiced in your daily life? Something very simple. We're going to talk about mudras. Maybe using your notes, maybe from your own understanding. Do we know what a mudra is? Thank you, sir.
Seal,
A seal, okay?
gesture.
A seal, a gesture.
Like a lock.
A lock, okay? Are we talking about like on a door? What are we talking about?
More like a seal lock. Like you're keeping your energy in a spot, in a space, contained in a space, so it doesn't go further than you want it to.
Yes, so your body, you're creating a spiritual lock within your body.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So it's not a lock on a door, it's not something hypothetical, it's something you can tangibly do for your own energy. All right. So when we look at mudras, I'm going to show you 3 mudras. One is specifically related to a sangha or a community. One of the mudras that I think helps ground, two mudras that help think really ground people, and they're very accessible. You can do them anytime except when you're driving. Okay, don't do this when you're driving unless you're at a stoplight, right? And it's simply called Eagle Mudra or Garuda Mudra. So you're just going to take your thumbs. You want to sit in a comfortable seated position. Finding a very comfortable situation here. Get your sits bones a little open, sitting tall in your spine. You're gonna just take your thumbs and push them together and then crisscross them so that the right thumb is kind of hugging the left and you kind of have the wings, and you're gonna bring them toward your body and you're gonna put them over your pecs in your heart space. Okay? So these yoga mudras are really symbolic gestures, practice with your hands and fingers, and they're facilitating the flow of energy. Where do you feel the energy in your body right now if you put your hands on your chest? Shoulders,
Heartbeat.
heartbeat.
I'm still struggling with mudras. I'm sorry.
That's understandable. So I want you to do something. I want you to cut off a sense. If you haven't already, try to close your eyes gently. And you're going to focus on the warm feeling of your hands on your chest. Feel your heartbeat rising into that eagle mudra. Notice your breath, but don't change it. Just be present. Now gently open your eyes and drop your hands. Did that changing of one sense or closing off the eyes change how that mudra felt in your body? How so?
I felt more heat.
More warmth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sounds kind of hokey, but like a sense of love too. And
Absolutely.
I didn't have that when I tried it the first time.
Yes, absolutely. It honestly, it's one of the ways I hug myself. It really is. And it really makes a difference in making me feel grounded when I can't be outside. When I feel overwhelmed, if my nerves are rattled, if I get a lot of people coming at me, I'm just like, I'm okay. I'm okay. Feeling the breath in and out. And I close my eyes specifically so I can really tune into my heartbeat and my breath. Okay. Because it's hard to close. You can't be at work being like, ah. So I want this to be practical. You can do this, like at a stoplight, not while driving, at home, outside, at work, maybe in the bathroom if you're like in a cubicle space like me. So that is an example of a mudra or a seal. Would anybody like to write the definition of mudra on our yoga words board? Yay, volunteers.
What was the definition again?
So we're going to have a symbolic gesture with your hands or finger. Could be a seal or a lock. Symbolic gesture, hands, fingers, a symbolic lock. Obviously, this could be a spiritual practice, but the goal of yoga and this understanding today is not to leave with a bunch of spiritual practices. It's to leave with a bunch of practical practices that you can use throughout your day. The second mudra I want to show you of the three is the Boo mudra, some Mother Earth mudra. Very similar to what we just did. This allows us to kind of create a sense of grounding to Earth, quite literally. And what's fun about it is everybody knows how to do the peace fingers, right? You tuck your ring finger and your pinky finger below your thumb, and you got peace. Peace, love, and happiness, right? Now we're just going to take those peace fingers and we're going to ground them like electrical currents to the outsides of our sit bones or hips and sit tall in our spine. And again, just consider how this mudra, this simple movement of our hands and our fingers, could potentially create a calm, restless mind, specifically closing the eyes, becoming aware of the breath. Maybe this creates a sense of stability, security. We are electrical beings, so we're just grounding into the earth, feeling stable. Take one more breath here. And release the mudra and gently open your eyes. And there's more details about this mudra that you can read about here, but I'm curious about how that felt. How'd that feel in comparison to the eagle mudra? That felt more grounded, okay? Not necessarily as much heat in the chest on that one.
Yeah, like the Garuda felt almost nurturing, and this one is truly grounding.
Awesome.
More stable.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good. So you guys are getting the benefits, really short, quick, easy benefits. We did that for less than 30 seconds, and these can be held for much, much longer. And there's like whole workshops just on mudras. I want you to realize that. I wish I could go into more. I encourage you to take a mudra workshop if you see those pop up. And the Dhyana mudra is very common when sitting in meditation. If you look at the bottom description here in your notes, the three corners of a triangle, if you take your right hand and sitting it into the left, and you create a little triangle with your thumbs, you're creating a sense of community, but an opportunity for enlightenment and really good karma. It's like the easiest thing to do. We almost naturally do this. And I know that I naturally interlace my fingers and do this like all the time, whenever I'm not using my hands. And I think I figured out I do this when I'm in conversation so that I don't talk with my hands. It grounds me and it connects me to my body so that I can clearly communicate to other people.
So there's no Italian in your background then?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, my whole family's Italian. They
Always the hands.
stuff's flying around, glasses going. It's just,
So another portion of yoga that I want to talk about is movement. We call movement in yoga asanas. Okay? Specifically, when we look at movement or postures or poses, and I'll put that on our last yoga words board. So we're only going out with like 4 yoga words. It's pretty good. Not Roman. Movement in yoga helps really build energy and release energy and prepare for meditation. The reason I like Surya Namaskara Sun A is because it can be done almost anywhere. And you don't have to do the full plank pose. You don't have to get all the way down into on the ground if you don't want to. You don't have to do runner's lunges. So I've given this outline of Sun A. It's 2 pages, but it can take a minute. It can take 3 minutes. You can take your time with it. You can just sink it into your body. When you think about movement, how many times during your day do you get up and move? Anybody have a sedentary job sitting at a desk?
have a what job?
Sedentary,
Oh.
sitting at a desk,
No,
or do you
what?
sit on the couch at home?
Project.
So movement is, if it's not part of your day, it can be incorporated in your day. What I would like for you to do is consider Sun A in your daily practice. Consider Sun A in your daily practice. I want to show you Sun A without going to the ground. If you're standing in a grocery store, if you're standing in line waiting at an event, if you're just waiting on your coffee at the coffee shop, I want to show you just some amended Sun A's that you can do where you don't look like the weirdo in the coffee line, right? And then if you want to incorporate more, this outline is here for you, and I can answer questions after the class too. And of course, this is not even the tip of the iceberg. This is like a piece of ice that's melting. And if you come to Cambio yoga classes, you're going to get a lot more of this type of flow and understanding. So you would stand with me on your mat, anywhere that's comfortable for you. And the 2 major pieces we're going to do are simply just our mountain, our volcano, and I'm going to show you a few variations of mountain. So we're going to walk in place just for a moment, shake out your shoulders, right? This is pretty normal, like people do this all the time. And then when your feet stop, you can kind of see where your feet naturally lie in your hip distance. And you want to keep your knees soft, kind of roll your shoulders back and engage what we call Tadasana or the mountain pose. Okay. So I'm just standing in line. When I have groceries, I try to have one bag over here and one bag over here and balance. Okay. Softening the knees, just lifting those hands up to the sky. Bring your hands to prayer and then bring them all the way down to the chest. And we're going to do that one more time. Drop the hands, mountain, lift, bring it to prayer, and then you're going to gently engage your core, bend your knees, and fall all the way down and let your head drop. Bring your gaze to your knees. Your knees are soft. You feel some lengthening in your hamstrings and your calves.
This doesn't look weird in the grocery store?
I was just wondering.
If you stay here for a long time, maybe. And then come halfway up, you put your hands on your shins or your thighs. Your gaze is still parallel to the earth. And then as you exhale, you tap the floor one more time, and then you lift back up, one vertebrae at a time, reaching high to the sky. And this is a good time you can interlace your fingers and you can go into like palm tree right here. Or you can bring your hands to your hips and you can dip to your right and dip to your left. I mean, I am that weirdo. I will be in Kroger and I'll just be like, oof, ooh, yes, I'll do it. I'll do the back bends. The only thing I'll do is go fully down. And just that little bit of movement has completely made you in tune with your body, from your toes to your hips to the crown of your head, because you just went all the way down and back up. So short movements throughout your day to really get into your personal yoga practice or your personal sadhana. Are there any questions about movement and how important it is to resilience in the body? Okay. All right, one more thing. Take a seat, comfortable seat, and let's talk about meditation. This is an example of meditation. It's the Dirja Pranayama. And it's simply going to be a 3-part breath. I am not going to make this complicated for you. I want this to be something that you can do sitting on the couch or maybe managing traffic. When you consider tuning into your body, much like the Eagle Mudra, we're going to take our right hand and put it over our heart. We're not saying the Pledge of Allegiance. This is a military style class, but you know, take your left hand on your belly. You're going to sit tall in the spine. Keep your chin parallel to the earth. And this is just a 3-part breath. So you're going to breathe into the chest or the clavicle area, all the way down to the belly. Then you exhale, belly, ribs, chest. Now breathe into the chest. Feel the ribs expand, the belly expands. And then the belly releases, the ribs release, chest releases. Now notice that you're controlling your breath here. Breathing in for an equal parts breath and exhale. That can be in your own count. Now, if you're breathing 2 in, 2 out, this is the time to tune into the breath and maybe elongate it a little, maybe 4 count. So breathing in to the chest, ribs, belly, and then exhale, belly, ribs, chest. And that's about a 4 count in and a 4 count out. This can calm the nervous system. This can provide you a sense of peace and comfort. This is available to you at all times because there's nothing required. There's whole workshops on meditation. Take one more breath in and release that. And how did that feel in your body? Just being able to feel the breath going in and out. Did you notice anything different about your breath?
It's more intentional.
More intentional. Are we always aware of our breath 24/7? No. Okay. So this provides ability for us to tune into our breath, to be intentional about it, to let it serve us. Because when we need our breath, when we have to do something rapid, it's there for us. Our body's resilient. It's resilient because we've moved it. It's resilient because we have created that space of breath awareness. Now, if I had more time, if I had all the time, my goal with this kind of course is to really take a tangible moment for you guys to think about how you could take a sadhana or a little personal mini practice into your life. Whether that's one of these mudras, a piece of this type of movement, or your own organic movement, and a piece of meditation, and the idea of community. And my goal for you today is ask yourself, how can you connect to your community more? And are there any resources that maybe you can provide to the people in this room to help each other connect to their community? If you come back to my future classes, I want to go into how our core values align with our community and how the values bring us together. And that goes along with my 7 C's. We just keep adding C words. I like all the C words. And we'll flesh out more mudras, more movement, and more meditation, and you'll leave with a giant toolbox of options to live in your daily life. I genuinely appreciate you guys just being open and vulnerable and sharing your stories of resilience today. I really can't thank you enough just for listening and playing along and learning together, not just from me. That's very important. So I appreciate it. And I have these little workshop feedback forms if you want to fill them out. And I appreciate it.
Ooh, what's hot up there?
Yeah, it got hot real fast. Thank you.
Thank you. Turn the heat back.
Yeah, Nathan did. I guess he's still teaching his hot class. I didn't know that.
Is a hot class coming in here next?
Yep.